What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to this prediction video. Now, this is the week where the quarterfinals for each European competition are starting to round up. And in the previous video, we did speak a bit about the match taking place between Barcelona and PSG. And that's a pretty difficult one to top. But if there's ever a match that could do it, it is definitely this one. So for this one, we will be focusing on the Champions League second leg quarterfinal taking place at the Etihad on Wednesday, the 17th of April, as Manchester City host Real Madrid. The two sides last went head-to-head last week Tuesday on the 9th of April at the Santiago Bernabeu. Real Madrid probably thought that they came in stronger. I personally did, to be honest. But it was somehow Manchester City who surprised everybody as early as the second minute. Bernardo Silva blasting a free kick past the goalkeeper and just leaving him completely flat-footed. Real Madrid hit back in the 12th minute when Camavinga took a shot and the deflection off Ruben Dias put it past Ederson. And then Real Madrid turned the match on its head in the 14th minute when Rodrigo hit Manchester City on the counter-attack, and it was a really frustrating goal where you expect Man City's defense to deal with it and the ball just trickles into the back of the net. But Man City fought back, and in the 66th minute, the City got their equalizer from Phil Foden. He rockets the ball into the top of the net. City were not done yet, and in the 71st minute, Guardiola with his first goal for Manchester City. Also, a long-range strike, just blasting it past the keeper into the bottom corner. But Real Madrid were not going to let Manchester City run rampant on their home patch. And in the 79th minute, Fede Valverde with a gorgeous volley, putting it past Ederson. And that was the best that these two teams could muster up against one another, was a 3-3 draw. It was a fantastic match, full of gorgeous goals, but at the end of the day, neither side managing to take a definitive advantage into the second leg. We start off our team analysis with Manchester City. Now, the last 5 fixtures for the Citizens have ended in 3 wins and 2 draws, meaning the Citizens are effectively unbeaten in their last 5. Their last match was a 5-1 win over Luton. In these last 5 matches, City have scored 16 and conceded 7. But more importantly, other results have somehow placed Manchester City at the top of the Premier League. So the pressure is on for Pep Guardiola and his side right now. And I think they will deal with it quite well because of 3 players in particular. Firstly, Phil Foden with 22 goals and 10 assists. Phil Foden has proven that he can do everything for Manchester City. He can score, he can assist, he can dribble, he can win fouls. There's so much talent in Phil Foden. Guardiola can put him anywhere and know that Phil Foden is going to perform at his best. Next up, I want to talk Rodri. Now, with 8 goals and 12 assists, I kind of feel like Rodri is probably the most important player for Manchester City in this one, actually. It'll be his job to keep things solid. It'll be his job to dictate things from deep in midfield. And I think Rodri is the kind of player who can also flick a switch and all of a sudden become a more attacking player if it's necessary. And speaking of attacking plays, the last player I actually want to talk about is Mateo Kovacic with 3 goals and 1 assist. Kovacic has been relegated to more of a subs appearance these days. He comes off the bench to just see things out for Manchester City, or he plays the first half and then gets taken off towards the end of the match. I think Kovacic is integral in that Gundogan role. After Gundogan departed Manchester City and joined Barcelona, they needed a player who could just keep things tight in midfield, while Rodri will be there to break down opposition attacks. Kovacic is that player who will just control things, dictate the tempo, decide whether City are going to play a quicker game or slow it down and just frustrate the opposition instead. Next up, we look at Real Madrid. Now, the last 5 matches for Los Blancos have ended in 4 wins and a single draw, meaning they too come into this one on an unbeaten run. Their last match was a 1-0 win away at Mallorca. In their last 5, Real Madrid have scored 14 and conceded 5, which means they may have scored slightly less than City, but they've conceded less than City as well. That win against Mallorca puts Real Madrid in a very strong position in the Spanish La Liga title race going into this weekend's El Clasico. I think a player who's going to be so crucial for Real Madrid in this one is actually Rodrigo. With 16 goals and 8 assists, Rodrigo got that fantastic goal, I think, or fantastic team goal against Manchester City in the first leg. It was a typical Real Madrid kind of goal, and I think Rodrigo is a typical Real Madrid kind of player. Next up, I want to talk Jude Bellingham with 20 goals and 10 assists. Jude Bellingham is somehow Real Madrid's top scorer this season, even though it's from that number 10 position. But what I really like about Jude Bellingham is if he has to play deeper to control and play a bigger role in the build-up, he can do so. But if Real Madrid are struggling to get goals because the forwards have just been nullified, he can step up and play as an extra striker. And finally, I want to talk Vinicius Jr. With 18 goals and 10 assists, I think people have made the crucial mistake of thinking that Vinicius Jr. is off form, he's quiet, and maybe overrated. And I think that is a deadly mistake that anybody could make. Vinicius Jr. is the kind of player who can also flick a switch and just turn from being a pacey winger to being a pretty efficient goal-scoring number 9. I think if we look at all three of these players for Real Madrid, all of them are interchangeable. You can rotate them, you can have them switch wings, you can have one play centrally and one go out wide, and they can all still punish the opponent at any given point. The chemistry between these three is just insane. Okay, on to the head-to-head in the S3M2 Verdict. Now, the last 5 matches between Manchester City and Real Madrid have ended in 2 wins for Manchester City, 2 draws, and 1 win for Real Madrid. So now the fixtures are slightly skewed towards Manchester City. In these last 5 fixtures, though, Manchester City have scored 13 and Real Madrid have scored 10. So again, this further supports the claim that City kind of have an advantage. And then we talk about how City have always scored in these last 5. And the Etihad has been a miserable place for Real Madrid to visit. And it just sort of, I think, encapsulates just how strong Manchester City are in these last few years. I don't think there's a single side that can honestly say they come in as favourites against Real Madrid. But Manchester City can actually say that. And with good reason. Defensively, both sides have injuries to deal with. Manchester City have Kyle Walker out injured, but I think Real Madrid come off a little bit more damaged because they're missing Thibaut Courtois and they're missing David Alaba. So these are players who are crucial for Real Madrid in terms of getting these clean sheets, keeping things tight at the back, and just making it very difficult for the opposition to break them down. But I think that Real Madrid have more game-changing players in their squad. When you look at Manchester City, I feel that the only player who can really just be flexible enough to play anywhere, I think, is Julian Alvarez and then Phil Foden. These two, I feel, can operate either wing, centrally, as a number 9. It doesn't matter, they can do it. But when you look at Real Madrid, they have so many more players who can do that. Fede Valverde can play as a winger or centrally. Toni Kroos can play anywhere in that midfield. Luka Modric maybe is a bit more static than Toni Kroos, but he too can play defensively, can play offensively. Jude Bellingham, Rodrigo, and Vinicius Jr. These players can play anywhere in that attacking third. You couple that with the fact that Real Madrid still have Joselu on the bench as well, and you can see that Real Madrid have so many players who can do so many things, and they can do these things so well. However, I think there's a lot that we also have to take into consideration here in terms of matches coming up. City have been put in a very strong position right now because defeats to Liverpool and Arsenal mean that City now find themselves at the top of the Premier League. They also have to deal with Chelsea this week Saturday in the FA Cup semi-final, and they have to deal with Real Madrid now as well. So I think in terms of the Champions League, I think Manchester City are the only team that is still chasing a treble. And then you couple that with the fact that it could be a back-to-back treble, and that encapsulates just how good Manchester City have been this season. Real Madrid, on the other hand, have to deal with City, and then they have to deal with Barcelona this weekend in the El Clasico, in what could effectively be a very crucial match, because this could effectively be called the La Liga final. I think both of these sides have a lot to worry about this coming weekend, so how they approach this match will be very important. How does squad rotation feature in this one? I know Pep Guardiola fielded what you could effectively call a second string squad against Luton, but they still won 5-1, which just goes to show that in terms of squad depth, Guardiola's got enough, even on the bench, to grind out victories, and not just by a single goal or two. They're getting big goal lines here. However, I think it is also worth noting that people keep criticizing Erling Haaland and saying things like he goes missing in big matches. And if you look at his performance against Real Madrid last week, it was terrible. It really was terrible. Everybody else at Manchester City was operating, they put their best foot forward, but Haaland was just a complete no-show. But I think the amount of focus that Real Madrid placed on Erling Haaland in terms of defending and in terms of just making sure he can't affect the game in any way freed up players like Bernardo Silva. There were a lot of moments in the match where you could see Manchester City had multiple players in good positions to score. They always have these players off the ball who are just free and available to threaten or punish the opposition. For Real Madrid, they kind of wait for you to lose the ball and then they hit you when you least expect it. So I do still expect that to be the trend in this one. I expect City to keep the ball, dictate play, move it around, and I expect Real Madrid to just pick up those loose balls courtesy of players like Tchouaméni, Camavinga, possibly Toni Kroos and Jude Bellingham, and just pump it forward to Vinicius Jr. and Rodrigo. I think because the Etihad has been such a miserable place for Real Madrid to visit, I think psychologically Manchester City do have an edge here. I do think City win this one. I think City get 2 goals more than Real Madrid here. So I'm thinking it's either 3-1 or maybe 2-0, perhaps even 4-2. I think it is actually very likely that Real Madrid score. But I think Manchester City have enough quality. I think they have enough confidence going into this one. And I think they have the motivation to see this one out. Knowing that victories this week could solidify that treble chasing campaign for Pep Guardiola and his side, I think really gives them a massive boost, knowing that beating Real Madrid now effectively makes them favourites for the Champions League. Beating Chelsea on Saturday in the FA Cup semi-final effectively would make them favourites for the FA Cup. And then they just got to see the league out, because right now they're leading, I think, by a single point. So it's all in City's favour right now. I think really these 3 trophies honestly are the Citizens trophies to lose. Hi, thank you for making it to the end of this video. We really appreciate the watch time and the fact that you took some time out of your day to spend it with us talking about the sport that we all love. If you enjoyed the content, why not, drop a like down below or comment in the comment section. Maybe even consider subscribing to the channel. And I mean, while you are here right now, have a look at some of our old videos too. They should be appearing on the screen right now, along with that subscribe button. So you know exactly what to do. Thank you so much. It really helps with the YouTube algorithm. And have a great day out there. And we hope to see you again very soon. Thanks. Stay safe.